Yesterday, the New York Jets and the New York Giants played in one of the sloppiest, ugliest, and downright terrible games I have ever watched. There were injuries to key players on both sides, including Tyrod Taylor, who was already the backup quarterback for the Giants, and two different centers for the Jets. That led to the Giants being led by Tommy DeVito at quarterback in his first serious NFL action against a Jets offense that was down to its third center, a practice squad lineman who had never played a snap at center in the NFL. And the result was pretty much exactly what you would expect. The Giants did not trust DeVito to throw the ball whatsoever, so they proceeded to just hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley or another running back pretty much every single time they got the ball for 2.5 straight quarters. The Jets' offensive line struggled to protect Zach Wilson, and as a result, he had very little time to throw, got pressured, and hit almost every single time he dropped back to pass. The points in this game came from a 2-yard pass by Zach Wilson to Breece Hall, who then turned around and took it 50 yards to the house thanks to some of the worst tackling I've ever seen. A long Giants drive aided by multiple inexcusable penalties by the Jets that ended in a touchdown, and then a couple moments of magic from Zach Wilson to drive 50 plus yards in 24 seconds, spike the ball, and then hit the game-tying field goal to force overtime, followed by a gutsy throw from Zach on third down to Garrett Wilson in overtime, and then a smart play to draw a flag deep in Giants territory, and the Jets kicked the winning field goal. So this was not a great game for anybody on either offense, other than maybe Saquon Barkley and Garrett Wilson. Everyone else had a pretty rough go of it, thanks to the torrential rain and excellent defense from both teams. That being said, of course, all the Jets fans are trashing Zach Wilson, and if he hadn't pulled a rabbit out of his hat to help the Jets win, there would be people calling for him to be kicked out of the NFL again. I think we should give the guy some credit. Not only did he lead an improbable comeback victory, he did so with a makeshift offensive line and torrential downpour. He was getting hit or pressured almost every single time he threw it, and still was able to throw for over 200 yards, a touchdown, and lead the Jets to victory. Now, was he perfect? Definitely not. He had 2 fumbles and missed an easy third down completion to Breece Hall. He also held on to the ball too long a few times and took a killer sack on 4th down at the end of the game. But those are things he can clean up. The fumbles happened because, number 1, his offensive line failed to protect him on the first one, and number 2, there was a bad exchange with a center who had never snapped the ball before in an NFL game. That was literally his first ever snap. So it's really hard to fault Zach for either of those. But even so, Zach took responsibility in the post-game press conference, saying that he told Xavier Newman it was his fault, not Newman's, and that helped calm Newman down, and then they really didn't have any more issues after that. The miss to Breece Hall was a tough one. To me, it looked like the ball slipped out of his hand when he tried to throw it in the rain, and so that led to the pass falling at Breece's feet. The 4th down sack is probably the most egregious with the game on the line like that. Even if no one is open, then you gotta throw it and at least give someone like Garrett Wilson a chance to make a play. But despite the mistakes, I think it was a decent showing for him, and there were also at least 4 drops in this game that you can't put on Zach. So overall, I thought Zach played fine. He made some mistakes, but he also made some huge plays that directly resulted in the Jets winning the game. So I think you can really tell who actually understood what happened in the game, because there were multiple national analysts as well as local media that praised Zach Wilson for how he played based on the film, and the film doesn't lie. If you just look at the box score, then yeah, it doesn't look great. But if you actually watch the film and watch the throws he was making and how he was dealing with the pressure, he was standing back there and taking hits often. And that's not something that he has done much in his NFL career. In his first couple of years, he would typically just bail and try and run his way out of things. But he's doing much better at staying in the pocket and getting hit and trying to put the ball where his receiver can get it. So anyone who doesn't think Zach Wilson has gotten better is just kidding themselves, honestly. Like, I'm not saying he has arrived and is a top quarterback in the league, because he isn't, but he has definitely gotten better, and he's shown progress in different areas in pretty much every game. So it also doesn't really make sense to me that people were calling for him to be done after this game if they lost. That would be totally irresponsible to just ignore all the good that has happened the previous 3 weeks in a row and bench him because he made a few mistakes in a torrential downpour without a real center, or even really an offensive line at all, for that matter. Anyway, the Jets are now 4-3 on the season and have won 3 games in a row, leading up to a Monday Night Football showdown against the LA Chargers coming up. Hopefully those injuries on the O-line, specifically at the center position, are not too serious. I think Connor McGovern suffered a dislocated kneecap, so that doesn't seem very encouraging for next week. But I don't know who they're going to play at center, because while the exchanges were fine after that first one with Newman, his pass protection was not great. He was getting just straight dominated pretty much every single time they snapped the ball. So I don't know if they're going to bring in a new center. It would be awesome if Joe Tippmann was back, but yeah, it's just it's a tough situation for the Jets offensive line right now. So I'm interested to see how they fix that, or if they fix that going into the game with the Chargers.